Hey, what's going on everybody? It's ETAPRIME back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at how well Starfield runs on the AYANEO 2S. If you're not familiar with the AYANEO 2S, basically what we've got here is a 7-inch 1200p display. It looks really good. It's an IPS display. Ryzen 7 7840U with RDNA3 graphics, and this one just happens to have 32 gigabytes of RAM running at 7500 megatransfers per second. As we know, Starfield is a brand new game to the market, so I wanted to test it on a lot of different handhelds. I've already made a video of this running on the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally. Had a lot of people asking about the AYANEO 2, so I figured I'd go ahead and show you how it performs here. And right now, we're at 1200p low, we are using FSR, and I've got the TDP set at 16 watts with a little boost up to 18 watts. And overall, at 1200p, locked at 30 FPS, 16 watts, the AYANEO 2 can definitely run this game really well. Very enjoyable experience, definitely looks a lot better than running at 800p or 720. And that faster RAM really does help out with this RDNA3 iGPU, but it does have its limitations. Unfortunately, with Starfield on the 7840U APU, even at higher TDPs, it's really hard to run this at a constant 60 FPS, even at 800p. Now we can get real close, but what I wanted to do here was run this at 1200p. I wanted to get a good looking picture, decent frame rate, and I know 30 FPS isn't appealing to a lot of people, but one thing to keep in mind here is the Xbox Series X actually only runs this at 30 FPS. Of course, we've got a higher resolution on that device, but we're working with a lot less power here in the AYANEO 2S. And I have to mention it, but it's still really early for the AMD drivers and game optimizations right now, so in the future, we will see a nice little boost in performance. But until then, I want to see how well it runs on this device, and keep in mind, with the newest ISpace update, ISpace 2, we do have something known as Smart TDP, which is something we will be testing out in this video. But to do that, I actually want to move over to my game capture so we can get a better look at everything. Okay, so I just wanted to plug into Game Capture to give you a closer look here, and as you saw, at 16 watts on the AYANEO 2S, with that boost up to 18, 30 FPS, 1200p is actually good to go with Starfield on this device, but it does have more to offer. If you're familiar with these AYANEO devices, you know we have iSpace, and with the newer updates, iSpace 2.0, they've actually added something really awesome that seems to function much better than any other way that I've seen it implemented so far. And that's called Smart TDP with these AYANEO devices, otherwise known as Auto TDP. So the AYANEO 2S can actually go up to 33 watts here. But if we go any further, it's going to enable Smart TDP. Basically, what this is going to allow us to do is set a desired frame rate. So we'll do that in just a second, but we're going to go ahead and enable this. Now we can set our desired frame rate. We can go up to 60, basically anywhere in between 30 to 60, or we could do unlimited if we want to. Now for Starfield, I don't think we're going to be able to run this at 60 FPS with a maximum of 33 watts on this 7840U powered handheld. We can definitely try it, but I'd say around 45 FPS is kind of a nice little sweet spot. And with Smart TDP enabled, what it's going to do is try to give us enough power to the CPU and GPU up to that limit of 33 watts to run these games at 45 FPS or whatever we have this frame limiter set to. This can also come in really handy for getting better battery life by setting your frame limiter to, let's say, 30 FPS with certain games. That way, for instance, let's say we wanted to run this at a 15 watt TDP running an indie game. If we just set it manually, it's going to get real close to that 15 watt TDP. With Smart TDP enabled, there's a chance it would only really need 9 watts of power to run that game. Now that's definitely not going to be the case with Starfield here, but I just kind of wanted to show you that with iSpace 2. Comes in really handy. So now we're going to be shooting for 45 FPS with Starfield with a max TDP up to 33 watts and anywhere in between there. Alright, so first up we've got an indoor section. I wanted to show you the settings here. We are at 1200p, so 1920 by 1200, low with FSR enabled. Again, we're using Auto TDP, and as you can see in the menus, that TDP or the CPU package power drops down quite a bit. But once we enter gameplay, you'll see it needs to kind of adjust itself to get that 45 FPS lock, but once it does that, it's actually pretty steady. And if you keep an eye on that CPU package power, you know, we've got a couple enemies on screen right now. I did see it jump up to 28. it'll go back down to around 23 and we'll still have that 45 FPS lock, but it's a little all over the place. I mean, that's how auto TDP works. When you need it, it'll throw more at it. But you know, in the time frames that you have that higher TDP versus the lower, you can save quite a bit of battery life. For instance, you know, if we were locked right there at 26 watts trying to run this at 45 FPS with no auto TDP, this is going to pull as much as it can up to 26 watts basically all the time. Even in the menus, I think it drops down just a bit, around 21 watts. So with auto TDP, it really does help out. Now coming around this corner, it's going to adjust itself, drop down a bit, and then go right back up to 45. That's how it works, and it does work quite well on these AYANEO devices with ISpace 2. But there's another section that I wanted to show you here, and that's just kind of outdoor exploration. I know this planet is a bit dark, but we are using the same settings here, 1200p low with FSR enabled. And yeah, I mean, even during outdoor exploration, we can get this to pretty much lock at 45 FPS. Feels really good like this. And of course, there are other sections in the game, and performance across the board really isn't the same. Space exploration, you're only going to pull around 20 watts at 45 FPS. During battle, you'll see it jump up to around 26. But when we go back to Jameson, which is kind of our home base for right now, it really does fall on its face. Same settings, low, 1200p, auto TDP, and you can see we're getting up to around 31 watts and we can't hit 45 FPS. Even at 800p, we only get an average of around 41 at 30 watts here with the AYANEO 2. And I've done a lot of testing with this game on different hardware. I'm going to kind of chalk this up to being unoptimized right now. I think we will see better performance in this area in the future. So what I've been doing here in this area is just locking it at 30 FPS. Now we're really hard pressed to run this at 60 FPS on an APU right now, but you know, with more optimizations from the game developers, Bethesda, and driver optimizations from AMD, I think we will see much better performance on these devices very soon. But until then, I think my sweet spot is 16 watts with a boost up to 18, 1200p low on this device. And if you don't mind running at 800p, you can just set it at 15 watts and have a really good time at 30 FPS with this game. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. Really appreciate you watching. I've actually been experimenting with some performance mods from Nexus Mod with this game on different handheld devices. I've been seeing a little increase, but nothing super major. As soon as we get something, I will make another video showing you some optimizations that you can do to run this a lot better on lower end hardware. If you've got any questions, let me know in the comments below. And like always, thanks for watching.